Welcome to Ms. Smith's Math Tutorials. I'm Ms. Smith. In this video, we're going to talk about consecutive integer word problems. This is a very specific type of word problem that we do in Math 1. The word consecutive just means in a row. So if I wanted to count consecutively, I would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's just numbers in order. This is again a very specific type of word problem, but once you know how to solve them, it's pretty much the same process every time given what your question's asking you. So number 1 says 2 consecutive integers. Now that word integers is important. So these have to be whole numbers. They cannot be fractions. Okay, so I know they could be positive, they could be negative, but they're going to be whole numbers. So that's a good thing to note. 2 consecutive integers have a sum of 77. What are the 2 integers? So some key words here is sum. Sum means adding. So I know that this is saying that I've got 2 whole numbers that when added together equal 77. And I've got to figure out what are those 2 numbers. So at first that seems very overwhelming, but just do the same thing every time. I always lay out, okay, I've got my first number, and then I've got my second number, because it said I have 2 consecutive integers. Your first number, you're always going to label as x. Now, I just like using x. You can use any variable, but I like to stick with x. So your first number will always be x. My second number, I'm going to note with x plus 1. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I know these are 2 consecutive numbers. So let's say that x was 20, let's just say. And I wanted to get to the next consecutive number. Well, I would do 20 plus 1, and that would give me 21. That would be the next number in my sequence. This is how we note our first number and our second number. So I know that these 2 added together gives me a sum of 77. So we can turn that into an equation. That means this x plus x plus 1. So notice this is my first integer and my second integer equals 77. So now it's just solving an algebraic equation. I need to combine any like terms on the same side. So x plus x is 2x. Bring down my plus 1 equals 77. So I want to now use my inverse operations to move my constants over to this side. So I'm going to do plus 1 minus 1. So that those cancel to 0. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Bring down what I have left, 2x equals 77 minus 1 would be 76. Now I want to isolate my x. This is 2 times x, so I want to do the opposite and divide. So I get x equals 76 divided by 2 is 38. But we can't stop there. So I know x is 38. So my first number, x, is 38. But I also need to know my second number. So my second number is x plus 1. So now that I know x, 38, couldn't I just sub that in for x? So instead of x plus 1, it's now 38 plus 1, which would give us 39. So my 2 numbers are 38 and 39. So now I just want to double check myself. I would want to make sure that these 2 are in fact consecutive, that they do go in order, 38, 39. So I'm good. And then the second way I can check myself is add these together and make sure that they equal 77. And when I put that in the calculator, 38 plus 39, they do in fact equal 77. So I can feel good about my work. I know I did it right. Let's look at a second example. This one says 2 negative consecutive integers have a sum of negative 45. what are the two integers? So remember I told you our integers can be negative numbers. They just can't be fractions. They've got to be whole numbers. So in this case there's two of them. So I know I have my first number and I have my second number. So remember I said in this one my first number is always going to be x. And then my second number, even though it says negative, I know you might be tempted to do x minus 1. But we're just going to keep this simple. We're going to keep it as x plus. Even if x is a negative number, like I know it will end up being, a negative number plus 1 will still be the next consecutive number. So don't let the fact that they're negative throw you off. We still solve it the exact same way. These are still being added together. It says they have a sum of negative 45. So let's go ahead and add my two integers together. I've got my first integer, x, plus my second integer, x plus 1. And they have a sum of negative 45, so they equal negative 45. So let me go ahead and combine my like terms on this side. X plus x is 2x. Bring down my plus 1 and bring down my negative 45. I want to keep my x on the left, but I want to get all my constants to the right. So this is a plus 1, so I'm going to minus 1, minus 1. I get 2x equals negative 45 minus 1. Got to be careful with your negatives there, but it's negative 46. My last step to get x alone is to isolate it. So I want to divide by the 2, divide by the 2, and I get x equals negative 46 divided by 2 is negative 23. But I'm not quite done yet. Remember, I've got it, now that I know x, that's great. My first number is negative 23. But I still need to know my second number. So let me sub in what I know x is, negative 23. Let me sub that in for x and add 1 to it. So negative 23 plus 1 is negative 22. So I want to check myself. Is negative 23 and negative 22, are they consecutive negative numbers? Yeah, they are. And I want to just double check in my calculator that negative 23 plus negative 22, that those do in fact equal negative 45. Let's look at two more examples. So for number 3, it says find 3 consecutive even integers whose sum is 222. This one's a little different, but we're really going to go about it the same way. So instead of having 2 numbers this time, I have 3. So I want to note that I've got my first number, I've got my second number, and I've got my third number. We could have 4 numbers, we could have 5 numbers. You just would still, in that case, I would list 4th, 5th. Okay, in this case, they want 3. So 3 consecutive even integers. So this time, our numbers will be in consecutive order, but it's only going to count the even. So it might be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Those are consecutive even integers. So we have got to be a little more careful with how we set up our equation here. And again, I see that their sum is 222. So we are adding each integer together to give me 222. I know that my first integer is going to be x. I'm just always going to keep it simple with the first one, just it's x. Now my second one, remember these are even integers, so I don't want to do x plus 1 in this case. It's actually going to be x plus 2. Think about it like if I started with 2 as x and I wanted to go to the next even integer, I would have to add 2 to get to the next one. For example, if this was 2, to get to 4, I'd have to add 2. To then get to 6, I'd have to add, in this case, 4. So let's look at the third one. If x was 2, I'd have to add 2 to get to 4, and then I'd have to add 4 to get to 6. So it gets a little trickier when we have even or odd, as we'll see in a minute, but even or odd integers, it's going to be set up this way. So even if you can just memorize this, that you're going to have x plus 1, x plus 2 if we're talking about consecutive integers, but when we're talking about consecutive even integers, it's going to be x plus 2, x plus 4. If we add a fourth number, it'd be x plus 6. If we had a fifth number, it'd be x plus 8. So you just got to kind of get in the rhythm of that. So now that I've laid out my 3 consecutive even integers, I need to add each of these together and have my total as 222. So I'm going to do my first integer plus my second integer plus my third integer is 222. So let me go ahead and combine my like terms. I've got a couple over here. So I've got x plus x plus x. That would be 3x. And then I've got 2 plus 4, which would give me 6. Bring down my equals 222. Now I want to get all my constants to the right and leave my variable on the left. So I want to get rid of that 6. Same thing on the right. 3x equals 222 minus 6 is 216. And now I want to isolate my x variable, so I'm going to divide by 3 so that those cancel to 1. Have to do the same thing to the other side. And I get x equals 216 divided by 3, which is going to be 72. So now I know x, but I still need to figure out my x plus 2 and my x plus 4. So my first number is 72. That was x. My second number is x plus 2. So if I know 72 is x, it'd be 72 plus 2, which would give me 74. Now I need to plug x in right here. 72 is x, so 72 plus 4. That would give me 76. So now I need to double check myself. I've got 3 consecutive even integers, 72, 74, 76, yep. And I just need to plug each one into the calculator, add it together, and make sure they do in fact sum up to 222, and they do. So that is correct. Let's look at example number 4. What 3 consecutive odd integers have a sum of 75? This actually works very similar to our problem that we just did. Pretty much the same, only instead of having even numbers, we're just going to have odd numbers. So let's set this up. I've got 3 numbers, so I have my first, my second, and my third. Remember, we said first is always going to be just x. My second number is going to be x plus 2. I know that feels weird because we're talking about odd integers, and students always want to do, oh, well, maybe this is x plus 3. It's x plus 2 because even if, it doesn't matter if x is, let's say, 9, an odd number, to get to the next odd number, I'd have to add 2. To get to 11, I would have to do 9 plus 2. So its layout is exactly the same, and this will be x plus 4. The layout is exactly the same as if it was an even integer. So again, I'm adding these all together because it says they create a sum of 75. So let me set this up. I've got x plus my second number, x plus 2, plus my third number, x plus 4, equals 75. So now this is just an algebra problem that I can solve. I need to combine my like terms. X plus x plus x is 3x. 2 plus 4 is 6. And bring down my equals 75. I want to combine all my constants on the right, so I'm going to subtract 6. Subtract 6. That gives me 3x equals 75 minus 6 is 69. And I want to isolate my x, so I divide out 3. And I get x equals 69 divided by 3 is 23. So I know x is 23. But I need to come back here to my original question. They want to know all three numbers, integers. So I know 1, x is 23. In order to find my second number, I just sub in what I know is x, 23, plus 2. So 23, 24, 25 is my second number. Now I want to plug in for x my 23, so 23, and then plus 4 would give me 27. So now I would check myself. I want to make sure I do have 3 consecutive odd numbers, 23, 25, 27. Yes, those are consecutive odd numbers, and I want to add them all together just to double check and make sure that they do in fact equal 75. And when you put those in the calculator, they do. So I can feel confident that I did this right. This has been Ms. Smith's Math Tutorials.